Hello and welcome to this video. The purpose of this video is going to be going over the different app start config files and how to change the startup page of our application. We'll start here. In the app start folder of your project, you'll see three files, the bundle, filter, and route config. We'll focus on the bundle and route config files. The bundle config file is a configuration file that points the program towards different library codes of library. That points to different libraries of code that we want to include into our web application. So you can see by default what is included here is some jQuery scripts. This is so we can use JavaScript in the jQuery form anywhere within our application. These bundles modernize. That's a way of compiling down JavaScript so it's more compact when you use it. Bootstrap is another JavaScript library. It allows you to access data objects and things of that nature through JavaScript rather than through the C#.NET code. And lastly, down here at the bottom, you see there's Bootstrap and site.css. These are the two CSS files that provide all the styling for our application. We could add more in if we wanted, if we had more customized styling to do, or we could go to these referenced files and tweak any of the styles we wanted. You can see here in this case the CSS is referencing the content folder, and that you'll find corresponds to the content folder in the application. There's the different CSS files. If we were to open up site CSS, you can see where there's the minimal styling. And we could add different classes here or adjust any of the styling that we wanted. And this would affect all the different web pages of our website. The second file down here, moving on to route config. This file is where we would put any of the ASP.NET routing or mapping information. You can see here, this first one is we're adding a map route to the routes by the name of default. So this will be the default page that is loaded when the application is started. The URL, we're telling it that it follows this format. We're going to be handing it a controller, an action, and an ID. You go down here to the defaults. These are the default values for the controller, action, and ID. When you load up this file, you're going to see that the controller is home and the action is index. That's loading up the controller, the home controller, and firing the index method. So there it will return the index view from the home controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. Since we're not using that index page for anything, we're going to change the controller to customers and save. Now that updates it to tell it to look at, of course, the customer's controller, and the action is index. And you can see here that the ID is technically optional. You could pass in an ID if you wanted, and that would, you could tell it to look up an or customer's information by that ID, similar to the way the edit page for the customers works. So once we've got the customer controller, our customers put in there for the controller, and we've saved, now we're no longer going to need this home index page. That was our default start page before, but no longer. So we're going to want to right click and delete, and we don't want that page in our project any longer. Now that we've deleted that view, we can leave the index action or the index function in the home controller in case we ever want to reinstate that page. But what we will need to do is look through the project and find anywhere that home index page was referenced. So I searched the project for home. I happen to know off the top of my head that the only places we have a link to that page are in the footer that we made, or in the footer that was a copy of the header. So there's also a link in the header, and then at the top of the page there's the action link. That's also up in the header. So you want to open the header. The action link, you can see, is still pointing to. If you hover over action link, you'll see the IntelliSense isn't working, but you can see here that it's telling it to run the index function of the home controller. Again, we're going to change the home to customers. That same home index page is referenced down in the nav bar. We can just delete that one out, save the header, and in the footer you'll want to do the same thing. That doesn't have the action link, it just has the regular link. Delete that out, hit save. Now in that short amount of time we were able to tell the ASP.NET routing via the route config file to, by default, load the customer's index view rather than the home index view when the application starts. We also went through and removed the 3 links that referenced the home index view. So you can go ahead and fire up the program, and of course, since we made changes, it will take a little longer to compile. And actually, before you fire up the application, you'll want to go to Build Clean Solution. That'll take just a moment or two to run. And then build the solution. I'm not sure why, but when I made my changes, I encountered an error while doing the build. And here it is popping up. It says it's unable to copy a file, several files actually, because something is currently accessing them. What I found the solution for me was to open up the task manager. If you're running in a virtual environment using VMware, instead of Control-Alt-Delete, you'll want to use Control-Alt-Insert. That'll pull up your menu, giving you the option to open the task manager. Open that up, make sure you click More Details, and scroll down to the VBCS compiler. For some reason, the compiler that's used to build the code got stuck running on my machine. So just go ahead and click End Task on that. Then you'll be able to come back to the project and give it a build. And once the build is completed, go ahead and fire the program again. Okay, and as you can see here, when the application loaded up, it came to the customers page by default. We go ahead and click on any of the other links. Since we did not change any of the routing with those links should work just fine still. Now this Premier web app, that was the action link that we changed. Go ahead and give that a click. Brings us back to the customer index page again. And that there is how you change the default startup page for a ASP.NET application, and a quick rundown of the route config file.